You're watching the SABC News Channel. This is The Globe. Namibia is positioning itself as a leader in the emerging market for green hydrogen made from renewable electricity. The green hydrogen project is expected to produce around 300,000 tons of green hydrogen per year.
The green hydrogen project is set to be based in Lutherits, a town in southern Namibia where harsh desert meets pale ocean. The renewable energy from the sun and wind will be used to separate hydrogen molecules from desalinated water. Those hydrogen molecules in their pure form or in derivative green ammonia can make up a variety of products, including sustainable fuels. The green hydrogen is expected to create 32,000 jobs and bring over 50 million Namibian dollars in the first year into the economy. The impact is set to be international, with agreements already signed with Germany, Belgium and Rotterdam in the Netherlands. The preferred bidder, Hydrogen Energy, is set to start production in 2026.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined via Zoom by James Mnyupe, who's Namibia's government's presidential economic advisor and hydrogen commissioner. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. This all sounds very new age and pioneering. So is it all systems go?
Thanks for having us, Peter. It's certainly pioneering, you're right, but there's still a lot of work to do. But nonetheless, we're absolutely humbled by the amount of interest that we have been able to garner from actually really developers from around the world, of course, including your lovely home in South Africa as well.
So are you happy with the feasibility studies that have been done so far? Does this look like something that will bear fruit?
Yeah, so we've at the moment we've done at least two pre-feasibilities, one from the World Bank and another one from the largest port in Europe, the Port of Rotterdam. Both of those entities have done some pre-feasibility studies and come to similar conclusions, which essentially mean that Namibia has some very unique characteristics that make it a very good contender to be a world leader in the production of green synthetic fuels, of course, whether it's hydrogen or its derivatives. And essentially, we've actually posted these particular studies online for anyone to see. So if your viewers go to gh2namibia.com, greenhydrogennamibia.com under the downloads page, they can look at those pre-feasibility studies. But of course, after we launched that request for proposal, we are now looking to go ahead and begin some really detailed feasibility studies for the next 12 to 18 months with this preferred bidder, before we start advancing into final investment decision, and then, of course, really kicking off construction by 24-25.
It's not a small investment. I mean, this is a huge deal. What was it, $9 billion? How's this all going to be financed? Fantastic
question. So, I mean, Peter, 9.4 billion US dollars is about 85 to 90% of our GDP. You're right next door. I think your GDP is about 320 billion. It's 3% of your GDP. But for us, it's a real big amount. Now, one of the things our government is doing at the moment is we're trying to encourage private sector-led economic recovery, and of course, we're really trying hard to attract the FDI into the country after 2 or 3 years of slumping and declining. Yeah, of course, on the back of a big drought and, of course, COVID. So this particular project is primarily going to be funded by the private sector players. So Hyphen, this consortium, a global consortium that has a South African player such as Enetrag and Hyphen as well. And, of course, they have German elements as well. So they'll be bringing most of the money. But the Namibian government actually will be given a call option to buy between 10 to 24% of this particular project. And what we would really love to do is to take advantage of the extremely concessionary funding out there in the globe at the moment for climate-related projects. And we would have to raise a Namibian first green bond. And with that capital, we should be able to buy the equity stake in this particular project And at the moment, we're mulling about housing that in our sovereign wealth fund, which we're also looking to develop over the next few months.
Have a number of other countries shown interest in your project?
Yeah, so Peter, we've got investors from various countries and countries themselves, right? And so, as the sort of intro mentioned, we're in very, very tight conversations with the German government. Their Ministry of Economic Research and Education has actually, secured a 40 million euro grant to help develop green hydrogen assets in Namibia. And at the same time, you've got the Dutch government who have also signed an MOU with us that essentially is looking to develop that supply chain, right, between our port and their port, because, of course, their interest is to supply that particular hydrogen into the hinterland, into Europe, and Germany is one of their biggest customers. And then, of course, you've got the Belgian government who, again, want to collaborate with us in this particular field because some of their private sector players, like a big shipping company called CMB, would really love to plant some of its roots in Namibia and develop key green hydrogen assets as well. So you've got those three countries who've really led the way in terms of signing agreements with Namibia. But underneath those MOUs, those overarching country agreements, there are specific private sector players as well making the most of that opportunity. We've got conversations going with Japan. And of course, earlier this year, we did come to South Africa during those Troika discussions in Pretoria. And my president had a good discussion with your president, Cyril Ramaphosa, on how our two countries can collaborate to build the necessary infrastructure that can allow for the effective transportation of either the green molecules to potentially a pipeline, maybe into Buchubay and all the way to Secunda, but also we could build some transmission lines that would allow us to sell you some of the electrons, because at the moment, of course, we're importing a lot of electricity from South Africa.
All right. Explain this technology to our viewers. I mean, what is a green hydrogen energy? How does it work, and how does it end up being energy?
Absolutely. Peter, at the core, it's really renewable energy. Okay, so it's solar and wind, and you want to use that renewable energy essentially to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen molecules in water, right? So water is H2O. You zap it with electricity using a machine called an electrolyzer. And once you separate those two molecules, you can isolate the hydrogen. And that's where the really fun part starts. You can then add nitrogen to that hydrogen and you can create ammonia. And ammonia is a lot easier to transport and also to trade globally than hydrogen in its purest form at the moment. And so, for example, as we're looking to evacuate these molecules, so that green hydrogen molecule into Europe, trying to take it as pure hydrogen might be really difficult because you have to chill it to about minus 250 degrees centigrade. There's a ship at the moment between Japan and Australia, and also between Japan and Saudi Arabia, trialing that out. But the easiest thing to do is convert that hydrogen into ammonia, put that into an ammonia tanker, and the ammonia as a commodity is widely traded around the world. So that's one way to get it into Europe, for example. If you want to take that hydrogen molecule into a neighboring country like South Africa, you have Sasol, which is one of the largest gray hydrogen producers in the world. So gray hydrogen is just hydrogen made from coal and gas, for example, using steam methane reforming. And if they want to decarbonize, which Sasol says they want to, we might be able to pipe that hydrogen, compressed hydrogen gas, over into Secunda and for Sasol to make the most of. So that's really all there is behind the green hydrogen. It's renewable energy using clean water. So you'll need a desalination plant. And then you want an electrolyzer to separate those molecules, and then after that you can start making ammonia and you can ship that around the world. Later on, you can start doing things like sustainable aviation fuel once you get a sustainable carbon dioxide source, or even methane. But that's much later down the road, Peter. So for now, let's just get ammonia and hydrogen into our neighboring countries and into our global peers as well.
All right. I mean, projects like this come with promises of jobs, for example. But I'm sure there are skeptics out there, some who might even be saying Namibia is just not ready for something this big.
Absolutely. Once you start talking about green hydrogen, the concept sounds extremely sort of foreign, but let's break it down at its core, right? I mean, when we looked at Peter, we put an RFP, request for proposal, from developers around the world, and we got about 9 proposals from 6 developers. And the preferred bidder, the one who sort of came out on top, if you look at the way they've broken down the project, they've broken it down into 7 buckets. Wind generation is the first. Solar generation is the second one. A transmission bucket, which is just building the transmission assets, big power lines. A desalination bucket, an electrolyzer bucket, and then ammonia production and ammonia storage, right? 7 different areas. Wind generation, Namibia is already doing that. We have local developers who are building wind assets across the country. Solar PV generation, we have a local developer that's built about 25% of our country's energy generation assets already done. Transmission, we have a company called Powerline Africa that builds some of the best transmission assets across SADC, actually. They win a $1 billion contract from Eskom to build transmission lines in South Africa and Botswana. Desalination, we have, I think, actually the largest desalination plant in Southern Africa in the Erongo region in Namibia. So 4 of the key buckets that take up almost 60-70% of the capex, we already have all those assets in Namibia. So the electrolyzer is the only thing we don't do. And then, of course, the ammonia synthesis, right? And of course, look, Namibia, if we don't have those skills, we're either going to train them up or import them. So the government, together, for example, with the Ministry of Education and Research from Germany, we're about to announce a multi-million euro scholarship program, actually, in the Q1 of 2022, where we're going to be looking to take Namibians overseas to train them in any of those specific aspects that we don't have. And then, of course, if we don't have those skills today and we need them, we're very happy to import them. I mean, you're looking at presidential economic advisor, but I'm an immigrant too. I came into Namibia in 1998. My mom came in as a lecturer. And today I'm a citizen, I work for the government, and I work for the president. So Namibia is not shy to import, accept, and embed any critical skills that we need in order to develop our country, to deliver the vision that we have promised our electorates.
I mean, this sounds huge and potentially a game changer. How will it change your country?
Peter, the idea is to go beyond changing our country. Because, I mean, the really bigger picture here is to say the following. Namibia is a small country, relative to the continent, right? We're 2.5 million people. We're, right next to the juggernaut of South Africa, going to 60 million people, an economy of 320 billion. However, South Africa is also Africa's largest carbon emitter. Last I checked, you emitted more than 1/3 of the whole continent's carbon emissions. So our goal is to, yes, decarbonize our grid, but, I think we have about 650 megawatts of installed generation assets. You have north of 30 gigawatts. And of course, a lot of that depends on coal-fired stations. So if we can produce enough hydrogen, because, check this, Peter, in Namibia, we have about 3 people for every square kilometer, okay? In South Africa, you're knocking on 48 people per square kilometer. So one of the things we have is lots of spare land, right? You're 16 times more densely populated than we are. So if we can use our open land that has world-class wind co-located with world-class solar, we're beginning to play to our strengths, even though our strengths in other means make us, say, a small, less attractive player. So we're going to use our space to produce clean electricity and clean molecules, which can help you, for example, decarbonize your hard-to-abate sectors. Steel, what Sasol is doing, of course, with synthetic fuels and other areas. And in selling those goods to you and those services to you, we begin to turn ourselves from a net importer of electricity, because we import 70% of our electricity, 40% from you, Peter. We'd love to be able to sell you clean electricity, sell you clean molecules. And then, of course, that does a couple of things for us. It, of course, really turns your trade balance around in your current account deficit. It begins to, of course, earn you foreign direct investment. And then the obvious one, it really, really helps you industrialize your nation, because what we're really trying to do is to become a hub for a synthetic fuels industry, not just a green hydrogen producer. And then that begins to open all sorts of other doors, including agriculture, logistics, steel manufacturing, etc., which is what our president signed up for when he signed up for the Glasgow breakthroughs. There are 5 key areas that are hard to decarbonize that we're going to attack, and that's power, steel, transportation, agriculture, and of course hydrogen.
This sounds very, very exciting. We wish you the very best on this journey, and I look forward as part of the South African masses to your success, because we'll certainly benefit from that, I'm sure. But we wish you the best of luck on this venture. Thanks so much for sharing this good news with us. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Peter, and I'm sure we'll be back with some good news.
Wonderful. That's James Mnyupe, green hydrogen. Very exciting project that Namibia is embarking on, and one that will certainly benefit the region, dare I say, further afield on the continent as well. We'll certainly be watching that one. Okay, we take a break, and still so much to come on The Globe.